It was late afternoon, the golden hour when the sun painted the city in hues of amber and fire. Cars honked impatiently as the traffic light turned red, creating a long queue of vehicles at the intersection. Inside one of those cars sat Daniel, a man in his early 30s, dressed in a crisp suit, his tie slightly loosened after a long day of meetings. He was scrolling through his phone absent-mindedly, half listening to the muffled chatter of a podcast playing through the speakers. Life for him had become a routine: wake up, go to work, grind through endless tasks, drive home, repeat. There was nothing extraordinary about this day, or so he thought. But fate has a strange way of weaving extraordinary moments into the fabric of ordinary days. As he waited for the light to turn green, Daniel noticed a figure moving along the row of cars. A woman, dressed in tattered clothes, her hair messy and unkempt, her face partially hidden beneath the shadow of a worn-out scarf. She held a paper cup in her hand, tapping lightly on car windows, her voice soft but pleading as she asked for spare change. Daniel sighed. Beggars were not unusual at intersections, and like most people, he had trained himself to look away, to avoid eye contact, to pretend he hadn't noticed. But something about this woman made his gaze linger. Maybe it was the way her shoulders curved inward as if she was trying to disappear into herself, or maybe it was the strange familiarity in her posture. When she reached his car, she stopped. She didn't knock, didn't speak at first, just looked at him with eyes that seemed to carry years of untold pain. Daniel hesitated. Against his usual habit, he rolled down his window, ready to hand her a few coins he kept in the side compartment for situations like these. But the moment the window slid down, Daniel froze. His hand hung midair, the coins clinking softly in his palm. His eyes locked on her face, and suddenly the noise of the traffic, the blaring horns, the flashing lights, all of it faded into silence. It was her, a face he hadn't seen in over a decade. A face that belonged not to a stranger on the streets, but to someone from his past. Someone he thought he had lost forever. His breath caught in his throat. His mind scrambled for words, for logic, for any explanation of why she was standing here, in front of him, in such a state. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as memories flooded back, memories of youth, laughter, promises made under starlit skies, and a goodbye that had shattered him into pieces. The woman looked back at him with wide eyes. For a second, recognition flickered in them, a flash of the past breaking through the haze of her present suffering. Her lips parted slightly, trembling as if to form his name, but no sound came out. Daniel whispered it instead. Anna. The name escaped his lips like a ghost, fragile and disbelieving. He had spoken that name countless times in dreams, in prayers, in the quiet loneliness of nights when he wondered what had become of her. And now, here she was, standing before him, reduced to begging for coins on a busy street corner. The traffic light turned green, horns blared behind him, but Daniel didn't move. He couldn't. His world had shifted in that instant, and the only thing that mattered was the woman outside his window. Anna, is it really you? He asked, his voice cracking with a mix of hope and dread. Her eyes welled with tears. She shook her head slightly, as if denying, as if ashamed to be seen like this. Then, in a broken whisper, she answered, Daniel. That one word, that one confirmation, sent a storm through his chest. He wanted to leap out of the car, to pull her into his arms, to demand answers, to ask her where she had been, why she had disappeared, how she had ended up here. But the cars behind him grew restless, horns screaming impatience. Daniel made a split-second decision. He pulled the car to the side of the road, parked, and stepped out. Anna looked startled, as if she feared he might expose her secret to the world. She turned to leave, clutching her paper cup, but Daniel was faster. He reached her, gently grasping her wrist. Please, don't go, he pleaded. His voice was soft, not commanding, just desperate. I need to know. What happened to you? Anna's lips quivered, her eyes darted nervously at the crowd of strangers passing by. Not here, she whispered, barely audible. Daniel nodded quickly. He opened his car door for her. Come with me. We can talk. You don't have to stay out here. For a moment, she hesitated. Her pride battled with her desperation. But then, with a defeated sigh, she slipped into the passenger seat. Inside the car, the air grew thick with silence. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, trying to steady his emotions. He couldn't stop glancing at her, at the once familiar face now lined with hardship, at the woman who had vanished from his life only to reappear in the most unimaginable way. The city outside blurred as he drove aimlessly, his mind too consumed to focus on direction. Finally, he pulled into a quiet park, where the world seemed slower, gentler. He turned off the engine and faced her fully. "Anna," he said again, his voice softer now, carrying years of unspoken pain. "Where have you been all this time? Why didn't you ever come back?" Tears streamed down her cheeks, carving paths through the dirt on her face. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. For a long moment, she simply cried, and Daniel let her, his own eyes burning. At last, she whispered, "I never wanted you to see me like this." "Like what?" he asked. "Anna, you were everything to me. You disappeared without a word. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" She flinched at his words, her guilt written across her face. "I thought I was saving you, protecting you from me." Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "Protecting me? From what?" Anna closed her eyes, as if summoning the strength to reveal a truth she had carried for years. Her hands trembled in her lap, clutching the frayed edges of her scarf. "From the darkness of my family, from the mess I was trapped in, from the debts, the threats, the shame. I left because if I stayed, you would have been dragged down with me." Her confession sliced through him. He remembered those days, her father's drinking, her mother's constant fights, the rumors of money owed to dangerous people. But he had never imagined it had swallowed her whole. Daniel's heart ached. He reached out, gently touching her hand. "Anna, you should have told me. I would have fought for you. We could have faced it together." She shook her head violently, her tears falling harder. "No, Daniel, you had dreams, a future. I couldn't let my broken world ruin yours. So I left. I thought if I disappeared, you'd forget me. You'd move on. You'd be happy." His grip tightened around her hand, his voice fierce but trembling. "I never forgot you, not for a single day." Anna's eyes widened, her lips trembling as fresh sobs escaped her. For years she had carried the burden of sacrifice, believing she had done the right thing. But now, confronted with the man who had never stopped loving her, the weight of her choices threatened to crush her. Daniel pulled her into an embrace. She resisted at first, ashamed of her ragged state, but eventually melted into his arms, sobbing against his chest. For a long while, they sat like that, two souls broken by time, reunited by fate, and unsure of what the future held. But for Daniel, one thing was certain. He wasn't going to let her vanish again.